And we are live. Live. Let's see. Connection looks good. Stream halt. Cool. Internet's looking stellar. Awesome. Okay, so welcome back. Today is our 8th brew with these beans over here, the Fahem. And hopefully we get something different this time around. So yesterday we actually got a really good cup, and that was with a 1:14 brewing ratio, which was slightly lower than normal, but then we added a dash of water and it became way better tasting and delicious. And I would say that that cup of coffee was the best one so far that we've gotten from these bag of beans. And since I like to explore, we were going lower and lower in our brewing ratios, so my thought was, why don't we just keep on going and see how far we can push it? So yesterday we did a 1:14 brewing ratio. Today we're going to do a 1:12 brewing ratio and maybe add more water into the final cup to hopefully get a delicious cup of coffee. So I hope you have your coffee in hand, just chilling, because we're just going to start brewing right away. But before that, actually, the recipe. So we got a 1:12 brewing ratio. Coffee is 220 grams. So we increased the dosage because of how little water we would be using with the 1:12 ratio. So we increased it from, we increased it from 17 grams to 20 grams, just to keep the water amount the same. And we're using 240 grams of water, a brewing temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, and a grind size of 27. So let's begin. I should try to keep this somewhere over here on the screen. Let's see if we go into brew camp, and if this is right over here. Oh yeah. So I need to keep it up like this somehow. Let's see. Give me a sec. We got a foam roller. There's this like nib on the bottom that is kind of annoying here. Not sure if I can take it out without removing it or like ruining it. Huh. Anyways, we will just balance it for now. Maybe put a towel there. Yes. Like so. Awesome. So let's begin. We're gonna measure out our beans. Get the word ratio in there. 20 grams of coffee. Like so. There's the beans. Let's get those ground. Nice, nice. 20 grams. And then we get our boiling water. Actually, this is slightly crooked. Ooh, like this. Okay, so we got our boiling water. We got the cup that we're gonna brew in. And we're gonna preheat this with one of the filters. Like so. And we toss out that water. It looks like I'm tossing it into nothing, but it's actually a cup in there. Like so. Pour in our grinds. Shake that out. And I'll bring you even closer over here. Like so. And let's begin. So we're gonna pour 50 grams first for the bloom, and then we're gonna pour all the way up to 240 in one continuous pour, and that starts at 30 seconds after the bloom. So bloom first, stir the coffee, wait to the 30-second mark, and then pour all the way up to 240 grams of water. Let's begin. Pour 50 grams first. Like so. Give that a stir. I like when the sun shines on it. Don't want to block that. Now we're pouring all the way up to 240 grams. My kettle is kind of blocking the recipe right now. I should probably put it here next time. Since I'm right-handed, that is. We're at 167 grams of water. So I can tell with the higher dose, we're really pushing the edge of the filter over here. So I need to pour even slower than before. Perhaps even pause if I pass. But no, that's 240 and that's perfect. So give it a mini swirl, like so. And then let it fully drain out. Yeah, I wonder what the best way to like put this is. I like see it on the cam. Maybe use my plant over here. I'll have to figure it out later. For now, we'll keep it there, and we'll have that over there. Why not? So coffee bed looks nice and flat. It finished at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Give that a stir. And I picked a bigger cup this time around because we'll probably be adding a bit of water here, so it wouldn't really fit in the smaller cups that I've been brewing in so far. I wonder if I can like plaster this up here somehow. Oop. I'll have to figure out the logistics down the road. So let's let it cool down a bit and taste it in a minute or two. Let's see. I've been actually really happy with the short like coffee chat video that I posted yesterday, and it's because it's such a low-hanging fruit to just put your thoughts on a video and share that. And I'm really enjoying that process actually. It's like less editing, less like tweaking, and less like educational, but more free-flowing and just light and a casual of a chat. So if you haven't seen that video that I recently posted called Climate Change and the Price of Coffee, just like random talks about what my thoughts are on the situation and some studies here and there to kind of like promote that conversation. But it's really nice of a format, and I can see how people can really get into that vlog lifestyle where you just plop down, turn on a camera, and just like blabber about anything or anything you have your mind on. It was pretty pleasing. Not gonna lie. Okay, so we're gonna give this a tasty whirl. And this is without any dashes of water, just a 1:12 brewing ratio, which is pretty low. So that puckerness is there, the acidity is there, it's kind of sharp, and that is to be expected from a cup that has such a low brewing ratio. And to compensate for that, we do the thing, which is add water. So I'm gonna measure out how much water we're gonna add to this. Let's start off with, let's see, let's do 5 grams to begin with. 5 grams. So I've added 5 grams of water in here, and we're gonna taste that. Yeah, like the initial harsh sharpness is cut down, but there's still a lot of overpowering acidities in this cup. So I'm gonna add another 5 grams of water and see how that opens it up. There we go. Give that a swirl. So Right now, it actually has the best mouthfeel out of the two other sips that I've had. The acidity is kind of like on the side, but it's still there, and it's still one of the more prominent elements of this coffee. And what I'm looking for is also like some kind of a sweetness to this cup of coffee, and I'm not finding it right now. Maybe I need to add like another 5 grams just to like see if it opens up and like does something different. But from my first impressions with this is that it has a lot of acidity forward notes, but I'm lacking like the sweetness that I got from the 1 to 14 cup of coffee, the yesterday's cup of coffee. Like that one had a good balance of a lot of different things. It had like acidity, it had sweetness, it had mouthfeel, and it was just a really well balanced cup of coffee. While this one, it's a bit more focused on the acidity part of the tastes. And the mouthfeel is there too, but I don't find any of the sweetness that I found in yesterday's cup. Let's try adding another 5 grams. Like so. Just gonna rinse my mouth. So 15 grams of water is a bit too much. 10 was probably the sweet spot. At this point, we're starting to get more of a drying mouthfeel, which means that the qualities of the coffee is being overshadowed by like the dry mouth qualities that my mouth is feeling. So a raspy tongue, slightly astringent, and that is just from like 15 grams of water. So at 5 to 10 grams, it was nice, it opened up well. But then as we added that extra 5 grams of water, it kind of like went the opposite way and now is turning a bit lacking in its acidity. It doesn't have that nice mouthfeel that we had, and it's getting those astringent, bitter, drying qualities. And I'm still looking for sweetness, you know? Sweetness is the goal. You want something that is sweet and pleasant and well-rounded. Sometimes it's better, like sometimes the bean is just more suitable for a more acidic, heavy note or more bitter and like raspy notes, but like this one, I know that I've had a really good cup of coffee from it, like a balanced cup, and I'm looking for the same type of sweetnesses and interesting notes that I found yesterday. But overall, I would say 1 to 12 ratio with a 10-gram dash of water is really good over here too. And the only thing that that cup is lacking is sweetness. So it had a bit of sweetness, but the acidity was still overshadowing that sweetness that we found previously. Yeah, so what am I gonna do from here? I'm probably going to go up again. So I'm gonna go up to the 1 to 14 brewing ratio that we were using, but then just tweak some variables up over there. So what I'll be doing is probably increasing my water temperature, but then decreasing grind size and making it coarser to then see if we can like create a new mix up over there. So David is saying, wondering if it might have been closer to 20 grams since you're drinking as you add. The ratio is changing. That's true too. Like, I'm not taking crazy big sips, but if that's the case, it should actually be less. It should be like 5 to 8 grams because as I'm drinking more, the amount of liquid gets smaller, meaning that you need less water to have the same impact as you did for the full cup. So if I was doing this with a final brew that I haven't taken a sip from, then 10 grams would probably be the sweet spot. But then if I'm now sipping it and adding as I go, since the coffee liquid is smaller, I probably need less water to create the same impact. So like 5 to 8. Yeah, exactly. So each 5 grams I'm adding is, so David is saying that each 5 grams that I'm adding to this cup of coffee is having a bigger impact because the total amount of coffee is smaller, which is correct. So instead of 5, 10, 15, maybe it's more like 5, 8, 12. Yeah. That I should be adding as I'm sipping the cup, that is. But I thought that this was a good experience and exploration. And I wonder if this would be more suitable for a darker roast because of those sugars and sweetnesses are easier to break down in a darker roast because they've been roasted longer. Maybe, like, darker roasts are normally used to be in lower brewing ratios anyways, so I think that this realm of 1 to 12 with the Kalita Wave is something that I need to explore more with a darker roast and see if I can get a good cup of coffee with that, with the bypassing as in adding water back into the cup again to balance it out. Like, it's not a technique that I've been practicing a lot or actually even applied that often. Only with AeroPresses have I done this technique multiple times, but never with the pour over. And I think it's a interesting way to get a different cup of coffee in your routine and have another like technique and tool in your belt to mix things up sometimes. Yeah, so we don't have a lot of beans left. I don't think I have enough for one more week, so let's see. Actually, let's just measure it. Okay, so we're just shy of 100 grams of coffee, which would mean around 5 days. What I'm probably going to do is I'll probably make cold brew out of this and see how that fares down the road. So we'll have one more cup tomorrow, which means there'll be around 80 grams in here. And then with those 80 grams, I'll probably make cold brew or play around with some other brewing device if I want. But I think that tomorrow will be the last cup that we're brewing with the Fahem. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to yesterday's recipe and replicate that to get a good cup of coffee, because I want to leave it at a good note and I don't have more beans to explore with. But that was a fun journey. I feel like I've had better beans from Tim Wendelboe. Maybe like the style or the specific beans aren't what I enjoyed the most, but there was Nano Chala that I really enjoyed from Tim Wendelboe that had way more of a tea-like body. But this one was a bit more like weird, funky acidity focused. And like some people enjoy it, but for me, it wasn't what I would normally pick up from them if I had the choice again. So if I saw the whole lineup of Tim Wendelboe and their beans, and if I saw Fahem, I would be like, yeah, I know that you guys produce other beans that are even better in my opinion, so I'm gonna go with those. But yeah, always good to try beans that are outside of your comfort zone and that you haven't tried before, because there's a lot of exploration that can be had in the world of coffee. So let's jot in our final notes over here. How was extraction? Well, after around 10 grams of water, I would say it was pretty balanced, but the extraction was still like, yeah, it was balanced. But taste-wise, it wasn't nice as yesterday's. It was like over here somewhere. Subpar. Like, it was lacking a bit of sweetness. It had a lot of acidity and sour note focuses on like the tongue and mouth, and I kind of like was missing some of those, yet again, nuances that were there because of that focus on the intense acidity. And as I was adding more water, what happened was that those just disappeared too. So sadly enough, like, I couldn't find a spot where I added just enough water for it to be perfect, but that's totally fine. That's how it is sometimes. So yet again, extraction was balanced after like 10 grams of water being added afterwards, and taste was so-so. I wouldn't drink it every day, but I would drink it every now and then. I mean, yeah, it's totally a part of the journey. Like, this is one of the things that I see way too often online with social media coffee content creators, and it's that every cup of coffee that they have is amazing, or it's total like dog shit. And I feel like this whole journey and like path to get a good cup of coffee is being kind of like hidden from like the masses because of the skewed perception of what people are sharing. So like, hopefully this is a way to like counteract that a bit and show that like coffee is a consistent journey to improve and tweak and refine your cup of coffee to then get the best cup of coffee with those beans that you have, with these specific variables that you've slowly tweaked and honed and refined. So yeah, it's all a part of the journey. 100% agree. And it's all about the journey of like where you're at that very moment. So if you don't taste these same things, or if you don't have the same equipment, or if you are just beginning in coffee, it's totally fine to just do it for fun and like try to brew a cup of coffee and follow the steps, because you gotta take the challenges at your specific stage in your coffee journey and focus on those and get really good at it. So if you're in the beginning and if you're not getting a stellar banger cup of coffee, then that's okay. Just focus on being consistent. Just focus on learning about coffee. Just focus on just doing the motions of brewing coffee and getting quality beans. David is asking, is that going to be one of your talks? The social media thing? Yeah, sure, why not? Like, I feel like that is a prevalent thing that I see a bit too often. So yeah, I don't mind talking about that and having one of my chill coffee chats be about social media and how it's kind of like beauty. You know how beauty is like all makeup and glam, but when you see people in real life, you don't know, like the 2 hours before their photo shoot, they were just in the studio, like putting on makeup, like getting dressed, practicing like angles of shots and getting the lighting perfect. It's kind of the same for coffee. It's like you start off with a bag of beans that you have no idea how it's gonna taste, but then you're only sharing those successful cups at the end. But what about that middle part where it's the journey of getting to that point, which is kind of like lacking right now because everyone wants to see a success story online and be like, oh yeah, this coffee is amazing, this is delicious, blah blah blah. But I want to see the struggles. I want to see that slow journey that people are having. I want to see when people reach a point where the cup doesn't taste good, what do they do? You know, what are their struggles at that point, and how do they like overcome that? Because not every cup of coffee is delicious. There's just like a handful of cups of coffee out there that are like cream of the crop, and I've had like a handful of cups that I can say are like on godlike tier, and then everything else has been like subpar, and then there's been like a lot of exploration failure down over here. But yeah, coffee, crazy. So yet again, tomorrow we're going back to yesterday's recipe for our final brew with these beans, and I'm excited to start the dark roast up again for the following week because I've really refined my osmotic flow technique, and I think that we're gonna get a delicious cup of coffee with those beans over there. So I'm excited for that, to play around with those again and just try out some things that I've been having on my mind. And one of the things that I was thinking about with the osmotic flow technique, I'll probably get more into it when I get there, but what if you used a light roast that was freshly roasted with the osmotic flow technique? Because it has so much CO2 buildup, it will probably be able to keep and retain that dome shape, and maybe it's like a secret technique that works great for any bean that has a lot of CO2 buildup, and not just dark roasts that have it more than light roasts, because a dark roast works really well for a long period of time for that technique because it has a lot of CO2 in it, but light roasts kind of degas quicker and don't have that big amount of CO2 in them after like 4 or 5 days. So I need to roast some beans and I need to play around with a light roast in the osmotic flow technique. Anyways, coffee nerd moment off. But yeah, excited to play with some new things, excited to edit some more videos for you all, and I hope you have a stellar Thursday. Gonna slowly sign out over here. Hope you all have a great day! Exclamation mark. Take care, everyone.